gave us a call this morning and said that their tub is tripping the breaker. After the breaker's turned on, it stays on for about 5 seconds and then the breaker trips. Feel the breaker, it is definitely tripped. So we're going to turn it on. It's engaging. As you can see, our top side's initializing. Yeah, and there it goes. Let's go ahead and turn this off. With this breaker tripping about 5 seconds after it's turning on, it leads me to believe that it's going to be either a small circ pump that's kicking on to run the ozone, or probably pump 1 for circulation and heating, or if it does have an ozone, we'll check that too. But first thing we're gonna have to do is with the breaker off, we're gonna have to open up the equipment bay panel, which is normally right underneath the top side. And on these Dimension 1 tubs, you'll know that it's the equipment bay by when you take the screws out. They're actually machine thread screws, meaning they're tight. If you take a panel off that doesn't go to the equipment bay, you end up with these more coarse wood screws. So this tells me that this panel has the equipment bay behind it. Those are extra long. Panel should be able to be removed. As you can see, this is a pack. It's got one jet pump in the back. It's got an ozone. And then basically we have, if you can see right here, it has one of these small circ pumps which strictly just runs the ozone. So that's my thought, is these pumps go out and that's that. The pack's trying to kick it on, it's flipping that breaker, but we won't know until we get this pack open. So breaker's off. We're gonna open her up here. So as you can see, all of our equipment, our pumps and our ozone are all plugged in over here on this side with these harnesses, and that's kind of it. So you got A4 through A1. If you look at the back of your pack, it has an illustration, and then it should tell you which plugged into each one of them down here. But the good news is we can always follow the actual cords into here. So this one coming from the ozone, we know that this bottom one's connected to the ozone, and we can just go from with the rest the same way. So if I was to take that circ pump up here and follow my cord, it's going to be the top one. So I always like to start with ozone or the circ pump. So we'll start with the circ pump itself. And that's it. We know that this wire, we followed it, it goes over to the actual circ pump. So with the breaker off, we can pull that circ pump off there, like so. And now we can go over and flip the breaker back on. And if the breaker stays on, we know that circ pump's bad. If the breaker still blows, we can plug this back in and we'll move on to the ozone and then the main pump. There ain't much anything really else that could be doing it, and that's it. If all of that checks out, the last thing we'll do is we'll check that heater. So with our circ pump unplugged, go ahead and flip our breaker back on. Top side's initializing. Hasn't blown yet. It's turned on. So my hunches were right. We'll go ahead and swap out that small circ pump, and this tub's fixed. With these small circ pumps back here, this one's actually connected to the back of the board, so there's really no real easy way to get this out without a bunch of water unless you drain the tub. All right, we'll make sure we turn our breaker off. On these circ pumps and all these different hot tubs, there's a lot of different models that are in them. There's small ones, there's big ones. You just want to make sure it's got the exact same number as the one you're taking out. And in this situation, this circ pump, all it runs is this ozone. So it's 15 degrees out right now, and that's it. We could have just left this circ pump unplugged and let this hot tub run for the next 2 weeks while we waited for a new circ pump to get here. In this case, it's pretty cold out, and I know that I just tried the spigot and it's frozen and these people are out of town, so there's no way for me to fill this tub up. So I'm going to use the vice grip technique, and as you can see, this hose is really warm and really soft, so I will actually be able to take my hose, and as you can see, I put tape on here so it doesn't cut into that line, and just squeeze it down. Not too tight, so we'll loosen her up a little bit, but just like so. And that should stop this water flow enough to where I can get this pump out with minimal water dumping out on everything. So we'll do that to both sides of the lines going to the circ pump, and that's it. Also, I got lucky, so this actual circ pump, I won't have to even take the hoses off. Basically, there's a union collar here, and I can just swap out the actual motor and this O-ring and just screw it right into the existing wet end of this circ pump. So makes it pretty easy for me. Otherwise, we would have had to take some screws out, pull the hoses off, and just take the whole pump out, put a new one in. If you have to remove the whole circ pump, you're going to have to take the hoses off, and there should be just 2 screws holding it down into the hot tub. And when you take the actual circ pump out, all you're going to do is grab some pliers or some vice grips, and you're just going to work these hose clamps off. Once those hose clamps are off, then you're just going to have to work the hose off of the actual circ pump with the tub drained. Once we have the hoses off the circ pump, we can remove the 2 screws. If you can't get to these screws because it's in a hard spot, you can also use like a flat style crowbar and just kind of work it underneath it and pry it up and pop those screws loose. And then always make sure you get at least 1 screw in it after you reapply the circ pump, the new one. Once you got the new circ pump in position, we're going to go ahead. You're just going to want to work on those hoses that you took off, like so. And then once again, we'll go ahead and use our handy dandy pliers and bring that hose clamp down position. We're gonna go ahead and finish taking this wire out. We know that that one plugs into the top port there. Take that out, and then we're going to close up everything here because we know we're going to get some water. We don't want to get any water inside this pack. This pack is the most expensive part of this tub right in here, so with it being the board and the heater, I want to make sure she's all nice and closed up. All right, let's go get a new circ pump. Loosen up this collar. That's it. We're going to replace this O-ring also in there. So we'll want to get that all hunky-dory, get the cord out. Basically get this one completely ready to get in there. All right, we can get this collar started. There we go. So, should have a little water on this one. But as you can see, it's definitely doable. As long as you got this pack closed up, it should be fine. So we're gonna roll this cord over to face the back. And then by holding the motor here, let's just give this the last couple turns to make sure she's tight. There we go. We can pop that off Allow all of our water to flow back to it. Which you can see she's nice and dry in there still. That is a biggie. Make sure you put that cover on anytime you're messing with water. And that's it. We're going to check our ends and make sure nothing got wet on the actual wire harness. It looks good. That's it. We'll bring this harness around. That's it. We're going to go ahead and plug her into port 1. Plugged in like so. That's it. It's just a little wire harness bracket that keeps all your wires where they need to be. All right, with everything plugged back in, go ahead and seal this up again. All right, everything's all dried up. Checked her for leaks. Don't have any water on anything that's vital. So here's the moment of truth. Go ahead and kick her back on and run her through all the cycles. Turn on our breaker. As you can see, our top side's initializing. So basically that was where it would actually trip the breaker, was right there. And that's it. The first thing that kicks on is that circ pump and pump 1. So see how she operates. Lights are on. So their temp's at 96. It's set at 104. We've got a solid heat light, meaning that it's already heating. So this tub's heating to 104 from 96 right now. We'll go ahead and turn everything on high and let her run for a good cycle before I leave here to make sure it's not going to trip that breaker again. But I think we fixed her. Another happy hot tub with Pool Elementary.